So I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar on next level flexibility with the SOLIDWORKS cloud offer. I think there's some conversation that we need to have today about what the cloud offer really is, how it might fit with you, and see it in action. So that's the hope for today's webinar. Ian's joining me to answer questions as we get going. So if you have questions along the way, please post in the chat section of the webinar, and he will answer those as we go. So some of you may or may not have heard of the cloud offer. Really, the goal today is to give you a good understanding of what it is, how it fits into the CAD world that we live in today, and give you an idea on how to understand whether your organization is ready for this type of tool or what you need to do to get there. Let's get this out of the way here. So let's start off with what the cloud offer is not, because I want to be very clear about where cloud is not a fit. So the cloud offer is not SOLIDWORKS Desktop. If you're a user of SOLIDWORKS, you've got history with SOLIDWORKS, and you've used the desktop SOLIDWORKS tool, the cloud offer is not desktop SOLIDWORKS. So I want to be 100% clear on that. It's not a replacement for SOLIDWORKS Desktop. Okay, as you'll see as I go through and I show a little bit about the cloud offer and the tools within it, it doesn't completely replace desktop, although it can be complementary, or if you are not needing the power of SOLIDWORKS Desktop, you could use this tool. Now, what is the cloud offer? Let's go back to what the cloud offer is. It is cloud CAD. It's CAD that runs in your browser with no local install. It's developed using similar workflows of SOLIDWORKS Desktop. So once you see the software, you'll notice that the look and the feel of the cloud and the cloud offer is going to be very similar to SOLIDWORKS Desktop, but as I mentioned, it's not SOLIDWORKS Desktop. What's nice about that is if you have any history with SOLIDWORKS and you don't need the power of the desktop, this tool may fit for you, and you're going to already know how to use a lot of what the cloud offer has available to you. It is a suite of roles sold as a bundle for a one yearly price. As you'll see as I lay this thing out, what you get with this cloud CAD offer is you get a bunch of apps, a bunch of roles that you pay a yearly price for, and you essentially use each of those apps for a particular function, as you'll see here in a moment. Now, what does the cloud offer include? Let's take a look at the different roles that are included in the offer itself. When I say offer, it's a bundle. The first one is 3D Creator. This is your parametric design. We're used to talking about SOLIDWORKS Desktop being parametric, but the tool on the cloud is called 3D Creator. That's the role. 3D Sculptor is for freeform design, more organic shapes. 3D Sheet Metal Creator is specific for sheet metal design. Structure Creator is specific for structural design, welded frame. Manufacturing Definition Creator is for detailing. 3D Render is for rendering. Collaborative Industry Innovator is for data management, and that is built in to all of the other roles that you see above. Data management is connected to all of them at all times. And then you have Collaborative Business Innovator for collaboration, sharing files and information back and forth between multiple people. So all of this is the cloud offer. You get all of these things included in that cloud offer. Now, the title of the webinar hints to the idea that the cloud is very flexible. Now, let's understand why we feel that it is a level of flexibility that we don't have with other tools. Well, first of all, your license travels with you. Because in order to obtain the license, you log in, it doesn't matter where you log in. from your cell phone, a tablet, the library, the airport. Your license is obtained when you log into the system. So it goes with you anywhere. It runs in a browser, so there's no need for local installation. Once again, I could pull up these roles on a cell phone, a tablet, a Chromebook. I can, be using a library computer and log in and do work. You don't need that level of power because there is no local installation. It has built-in data management. It's very easy to get caught up and have problems with your data because you're not doing data management. Well, this tool is built right in. So you're going to keep things clean and concise real early on. It has built-in collaboration tools. So if you want to involve vendors and design partners, it makes it easy. Invite someone else into your environment to use their cloud offer tools with you. It always runs on the latest version, so you eliminate upgrades. Okay, upgrades happen usually about every 3 months or so, and they let you know ahead of time, and all you do is you log in and it's upgraded. You've got new tools, new workflows. Okay. Now, who is a good fit for the cloud offer? Because it's not for everyone. If it was for everyone, everyone would buy it. Well, you have to have a cloud-first strategy. Maybe you do government work. Well, then this tool wouldn't be for you. The cloud is very much a problem right now in governance domains. You love using the latest, greatest versions of the software, of software in general. This will always be on the latest, so you get to use the latest. You no longer want to be dependent on the hardware to use CAD. A lot of times, machines become obsolete. They become slow. You've got to invest in a couple $1,000 computer to make it run fast. The life of a CAD computer is 3, at the most 5 years. With the cloud offer, you're no longer dependent on that hardware. You have a strong desire to simplify CAD maintenance and installation. I mentioned the installation going away. How about just managing the entire thing gets simpler? And that's what the cloud offer will bring to you. You want access to your CAD software and files from anywhere? Okay, it's not just the availability of the CAD, but it's also the availability of the files. If you're visiting customers, vendors, and traveling in any way, you can get access to all your data. Now, we focused on the roles that are part of the cloud offer. Within those roles are applications that are focused on those roles. For instance, 3D Creator's main application is called XDesign. Okay, 3D Sculptor main application is called XShape. So we call these passionately the X apps. These are your cloud-based CAD. They're included in the roles. So what I'm going to do now for the rest of the webinar today is I want to give you a visual of how they're used. I want to give you a workflow. It's going to go kind of fast. I'm going to talk through some of the elements, talk about similarities to SOLIDWORKS Desktop and some unique features to them. But I want to just start out how you access them. This is the web page that you would use to get access to the roles that you have. Very simply, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see this thing we call the compass. And in the compass, I can set some apps as my favorite, and you can see that I have several of the X apps there. Or I could create a custom page that makes it easy for me to access my apps. In this case, I'm going to access XDesign and create a new product, an actual file. Okay, now I just want to leave this up here for a moment just to give you this visual. I'm now running Cloud CAD Parametric Design in a browser. no installation. If you're a SOLIDWORKS user, this should feel already very familiar. You've got your planes in the center, you've got view orientation in the top right, and you've got a feature tree to the left. Now, our toolbars are located in what we call the action bar at the bottom of the interface, and they are organized by tabs. Click on the tab and you can get access to the commands specific to those. Now, I'm going to go in much more detail on each of these by breaking out our presentation today in 5 different sections. Because the cloud offer gives you all of these things in one bundle, I want to show you a little bit of how each different area might function, might work. So we're going to start out today talking about subdivisional modeling. This is the 3D sculptor, the X shape. This is for organic designs. We're going to show you a little bit about that interface. Then we're going to get into parametric part modeling. We're going to get into parametric assembly modeling, sheet metal and weldments, and then we're going to finish things off with drawings and renderings. So starting out with subdivisional modeling, this is using a CAD application called X shape. Now this tool, you start with what we call a primitive, and you can see in this case that they added a primitive in the center of the assembly model to represent the space that we're going to take up for a new organic shape. Now, there are several different shapes to start with, whether it's a torus, a ball, or a block like you see here. Now, once you get those shapes added, there are tools like this, being able to scale it to the approximate size that you're going to need the part to be. Now, I want you to notice all the different blue dots and the lines that segment out the initial shape. These lines and points become control points for us to push, pull, drag geometry around to create the shape. Now watch this in action. If I decide I want to make some adjustments to how it's segmented, I just grab the loops. Now notice it updated symmetrically. This is because you can see the center here is highlighted, symmetry is on. So anything I do to one side will be done to another. So I'm just kind of adjusting that center portion so I can manipulate it a little further. Now this thing's going to kind of have some legs on it. I can take those 3 sections there, do what we call a crease, and pull them down while pulling up the center like your digital clay, right? I'm molding this thing. I'm pushing, pulling, dragging, sharpening edges as you saw here. Now, if we continue on, we have tools like extrude, which allows me to just take a section and add more clay to it, right? Add more geometry to it. Now, that geometry may not be perfect. We may have to go in there and rotate it. So again, those control points are not just for XYZ movements, but they're also for rotations. In this case, by taking those 2 pieces of clay I hooked on each end, I can connect them very easily. And this is where the control point power comes into play. Watch how we can adjust the thickness, location, and geometry of that handle just by connecting 2 things. Continuing on, we need to, again, crease the corners of an area where there might be a label in here, some buttons, and you can see how easy it is just to select the areas you want to crease. Now we have control over those new faces individually. I was able to create a detent, an area that sinks in on this model that we can use for other geometry. So subdivisional modeling in the cloud offer, very, very powerful. Okay, if you're an industrial designer, you create some organic shapes in your product, this is going to make things really easy for you to get that geometry. Let's continue on with parametric part modeling. Very similar to the X shape, App X Design, as I showed you, we launched earlier, very similar in workflow to the SOLIDWORKS desktop. You're going to start with a sketch on a plane. Notice once I get started, you can see the sketch show up in the feature tree. One significant piece you'll see as I continue on here is that it's a single unified environment for both parts and assemblies. So what you'll notice here, even though I'm working on a part, I can make this an assembly at any time. There is no part extension, assembly extension when it comes to the cloud. It's unified, which you'll see here in a moment. Sketching, very similar to what we do on premise tools. Heads-up interface, shortcut bars, mouse gestures, can very quickly and easily get to some geometry. Getting it dimensioned up. Okay, notice the color changes, so lets me know that we're fully defined. When I add a radius, it's a really nice tool, just being able to draw a line across the two edges you want a radius on, and it goes ahead and adds that radius to it. Now, notice my heads-up toolbar has the extrude icon in it, the same icon that is in SOLIDWORKS Desktop, but I really want to revolve this. Now, this is an aspect of the cloud offer tools that's really nice, is that you can switch between feature types in the same dialog. So I started this as a solid extrusion and turned it into a revolve, but I can also go backwards. Okay, these are called super features. You can add one type of feature and then actually change it to another type of feature without having to fully redefine everything. Continuing on in this parametric part, we're going to create a little detent in the top there using a simple sketch. And through a cross-section, I just want to show you a little bit, when we talk about parametric design, this is the ability just to make a change, have it update, see the cross-section update. That's what we're used to. Continuing on with some features, I have an extrusion at an angle with some draft, and we're going to have a circular pattern of that feature all the way around. It's going to look a lot like a gas cap in the end. We're going to add some threads to the bottom. Notice the cosmetic threads or real threads that we have. Want to add some fillets. Now, there is some artificial intelligence built in here. When you pick an edge, it's going to be able to look at the model and find similar edges. So we don't have to pick each edge individually. The system will have some intelligence to be able to do that for you. The last couple things I need to do, I need to put a logo on the top, split the surface and set some color differences between them. Okay. And we'll change some colors. Now, once we have the model done, there are some additional tools that are available. Something called branching, where I can create an alternate version, one that's similar to the original. In this case, might have a different color. We can also export it out to print on a 3D printer. Okay, so notice the name of this at the top of the feature tree is alternate EV charging cap. Okay, so very simple to create similar but different design variations. So hopefully that little demonstration of parametric modeling shows you that there's some new functionality like the AI, the super features, the unified interface, but there is also a lot of familiarity if you are used to the SOLIDWORKS desktop tools. But remember, this is not a replacement for desktop. It does most of what desktop can do, but not all. Let's continue on with assembly modeling. So here we have an assembly. We're going to kind of show you two applications at once. I'm going to use X sheet metal to create a sheet metal part while I'm in an assembly. Now, I struggle calling it an assembly nowadays. It's assembly because there's multiple parts, but we're so used to an assembly meaning that there is a different file type, and that's not the case on the cloud offer. So, in order to create a part in assembly, it's very simple. You can insert a part into the unified environment and just start modeling. In this case, we're going to start drawing around the other parts and referencing them to create a sheet metal part in here. We're going to dimension it away from other parts and set the thickness equation here. So we have some parameters and what that looks like. So we have proper clearance. In this case, we do have control over the length, the position of the material, and we can extrude that to the length of the sheet metal part that will be sitting under the circuit board. Wall on edge command will allow me to create flanges. I can control the position of those flanges and the position of the material. Okay. Commands like isolate that we're used to seeing on the desktop product is very easy. Isolate the components that you want. In this case, we're going to create just a little cutout here so that we can give some space for those components to be connected through the sheet metal. Some corner treatments. Okay, simple corner treatments, typical sheet metal commands. The thing about X sheet metal is it's purpose built for sheet metal. So you'll see a lot of the terminology like cutout. We're used to calling cut extrude, right? A cutout in a sheet metal makes more sense. So some of the terminology will be purpose built for a sheet metal tool. Okay, a couple last things we need to do. We need to add a couple flanges in here to the end. And we're going to go ahead and mirror those also to the other side. And as you can see here, in the mates, there are mates that are similar, the same, concentric, coincident, perpendicular, mate dialog. So positioning components, mating components, very similar to what you would be used to. Last thing we need to do is take the sheet metal part and flatten it. And then we're able to export out the DXF file for use downstream. So sheet metal, inside of an assembly, the assembly modeling, very familiar, very comfortable, unified environment. It's intelligent, very efficient assembly design. Moving on to the next one, X-frame. X-frame is for welded frame, some sort of standard profile. Let's go ahead and I'm going to just start that video again here. So you can see here we can use the edges of existing sketches to get started. We add a path, we pick a profile. Taking those profiles, you can control the orientation and rotation of the profile itself. You can also apply the corner treatments to all the members in one shot, which you'll see here in just a moment. So this trimming function, we can trim to each other. You can pick your corners to essentially trim the corners the way you'd like to see them. Okay, continuing on, we're going to create some more tubing segments in here. We're going to use a rectangular profile. It happens to be a custom tubing that we're using. So we can pick the existing sketch lines, control the position just as you would expect. Okay. as you can see here, the system, we created essentially an assembly, and it's able to isolate the external references between the two parts. We have the panel stand and the panel frame, and it knows what relationships they have between them. And in the end, you create assemblies like this, multiple frames, support members, added other components on top. They could be from SolidWorks. They can be from the Parametric design tools. So this is an example of how we use X-frame to create the frame, but we can now bring in all the other components that are created in other areas. There's that sheet metal part that was created in X sheet metal. Okay, so the cap that we created in the Parametric design tool, all in one environment. So the X apps are really apps that are focused on the task at hand, the sheet metal, the frame, the parametric design, the organic shapes, but it's really files that can all be brought into one environment. Okay. To close this out, I just want to talk about drawings and renderings. How do we create drawings in this tool? Well, we create drawings very much like model-based definition. We add the GD&T and dimensions to the solid model, and then we create the drawing from that solid model and bring those dimensions right along with it. So this is a quick little snippet of creating notes. Notice the tree, adding the views. This is for your manufacturing-based drawings for cloud. Okay, there is some markup tools built into the cloud where you can mark up and identify areas that you want to change. And as you'll see here in just a moment, let's see. Get this going. That would be your drawings, and here comes the renderings. Renderings is using an X app called X Studio. Takes the model that we create in the cloud, allows me to select different colors. Notice the same type of toolbar, same environment that we've been seeing in all the other X apps. Control over the camera, the focal length, picking focus points so that we are setting the camera visuals just as we like. Okay, and then the live rendering, the real-time rendering, where you get the visual preview to be able to see if what you're looking at is what you like. Notice the areas that are out of focus because I picked a point closest to me to put focus on. We can put backgrounds in here, set the rotation, the glossiness, the parameters of the background itself. And then we can export the rendering, in this case, a PNG, which becomes available to you as a separate file. So all of this is built in the cloud. Okay, all of this. The cloud offer, if you have a cloud-first strategy, you don't need all the power of SOLIDWORKS Desktop. Now, I understand that this webinar doesn't go into the details of where does desktop exceed what's on the cloud, the parametric design tools, the freeform design tools. And we don't, at this point, have a matrix of exactly one versus the other. But I will say, I would encourage you to look into that, to get your hands on the SOLIDWORKS cloud offer. Give it a try, compare it. Maybe this tool will do what you need it to do, and you don't need the power of SOLIDWORKS Desktop in this case. you want the latest version, you want the license and the files to go with you, you want to untether yourself from hardware, then SOLIDWORKS Cloud may certainly be the tool that you want to look at. Okay? So I want to thank you for attending today. My email is kevin@caddimensions.com. Feel free to reach out to me with any additional questions. Hopefully, Ian has gotten through all the questions in today's webinar. But if there's any additional, just give me a shout out and I'll get them answered. Thank you. Have a good day.